من التزم السلفية حصل الخير كله وحصل أجرا عظيما وفيرا كبيرا لأنه لزم هدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد، فإن خير الكلام كلام الله عز وجل، خير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة دلالة، وكل دلالة في النار. وبعد. By Allah's permission and Allah's mercy, still continuing with our lessons in reminding ourselves and learning and studying about our Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're continuing with our lessons about studying the Tawḥīd of Allah Azza wa Jal, which is the foremost important matter in our lives. This aspect of Tawḥīd can never be belittled or seen as second best or anything like this. It is the first most important matter that will be asked about in our graves, and it's the most important matter on the Day of Judgment. So we welcome the dear brothers and sisters on the 17th of Jumādá Thani, the year 1445, al-Hijrah, corresponding to the 30th of December in the year 2023. And our study of the book Al-Mulakhas fi Sharh Kitāb al-Tawḥīd, which is an explanation of the book Kitāb al-Tawḥīd, الذي حق الله على العبيد, by the great Imam Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab rahimahullah. This explanation of the Mulakhas, the concise explanation, commentary of Kitāb al-Tawḥīd by our Shaykh Ṣāliḥ al-Fawzān, حفظه ta'ala. We're still continuing with the first chapter because these first 5 chapters are very, very profound and deep in meaning, and they have many, many benefits. And it's something that we should try to memorize as well, first 5 chapters. Because the rest of the book, after the first 5, 6 chapters, is the explanation of these chapters and what is opposite to Tawḥīd, with the shirk associating partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we've got to the 4th evidence now, which is the evidence that Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab rahimahullah brings, which is for our purpose in life and purpose of our creation. And the ayah is in Surah Nisa, ayah 36. Surah Nisa, ayah 36. And the ayah is وَاعْبَدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا. Worship Allah and do not associate any partners with Him. Do not associate anything with Him. Surah Nisa, ayah 36. وَاعْبَدُوا اللَّهَ. 2 separate words there. Or 3 actually. Wa, which means and. أعبدوا, you need to worship Allah. وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا, and do not associate anything with Him. So the title that we could write maybe for this ayah, or meaning of this ayah, is worship Allah and do not associate anything with Him. And this is a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Worship Allah and do not associate anything with Him. Our Shaykh Ṣāliḥ al-Fawzān begins by firstly explaining the mufradat, the words, the vocabulary, which is mentioned in the evidence, and that is لَا تُشْرِكُوا أي أُتْرُكُوا shirk, and leave of shirk. لا تشركوا, do not associate or partners with him. And اتركوا الشرك, leave off shirk. وهو التسوية, then he gives an explanation. He says, وهو التسوية غير الله بالله فيما هو من خصائص الله. Yani that is equating anyone other than Allah with Allah, equating with Allah anyone other than Allah in that which is specific for Allah. Equating, shirk is equating other than Allah, equating other than Allah with Allah in those matters, equating other than Allah with Allah in those matters which are specific to Allah. That is the Shaykh definition of shirk. Equating taswiyah, equating other than Allah with Allah, that which is specific for Allah. The next word is shay'an, anything, associating anything with Allah. And the Shaykh mentions that this is, in the context, is negative. It says, وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا, do not associate anyone with Allah. So this, in Arabic language, is, if it's in a negative sentence, then it means generally. فَتَعَمُّ الشِّرْكِ كَبِيرُهُ وَصَغِيرُهُ. That this includes shirk, the major shirk, and the lesser shirk. They always use this in Arabic language, in Arabic grammar, that if it's used as an indefinite noun, and so it doesn't have alif lam, an indefinite noun used in the context of in a negative context, that means generally for all things. So when Allah says, وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا, do not associate anything whatsoever with him. That's where it means, and that's from the precision of the language that a person can understand. When they read the Arabic, they can understand that Allah means do not associate anything whatsoever with him. The Shaykh goes on to mention the general meaning of this ayah. The general meaning of this ayah. يَأْمُرُ اللَّهُ سُبْحَانَهُ عِبَادَهُ بِعِبَادَتِهِ وَحْدَهُ لَا شَرِيكَ لَهُ. That Allah orders his worshippers, his slaves, with worshipping him alone and not to associate any partners with him. This command which Allah has sent to us here, this command that Allah has sent us in the Quran, وَعْبُدُ اللَّهِ, this command has been mentioned in the Quran 17 times. This command of وَعْبُدُ اللَّهِ, worship Allah, this command, this order from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, worship him, has been mentioned in the Quran 17 times. This wording, وَعْبُدُ اللَّهِ وَعْبُدُ اللَّهِ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ وَعْبُدُ اللَّهِ. In many places in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, like here in Surah Nisa, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions when, say, for example, in Surah Ma'idah, where Isa alayhi salam, al-Masih ibn Maryam says, and Allah mentions, وَقَالَ الْمَسِيحُ يَا بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ رَبِّي وَرَبُّكُمْ. Worship Allah, O children of Israel, worship Allah, my Lord and your Lord, Rabbi wa Rabbukum. And when, again, in Surah Ma'idah, again, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses Isa alayhi salam and says, did you tell the people to worship you and your mother? And Isa alayhi salam replies, مَا قُلْتُ لَهُمْ, I did not say to them, إِلَّا مَا أَمَرْتَنِي بِهِ, except for that which you ordered me, أَنِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ رَبِّي وَرَبُّكُمْ, yani, and to worship Allah. And in Surah in Surah Al-A'raf, when Nuh alayhi salam said to the people, فَقَالْ يَا قَوْمِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مَا لَكُمْ مِنْ إِلَهٍ غَيْرُهُ, and worship Allah. And it's reoccurring, there's many, 17 times, just this wording of worship Allah. And then there's the other wording as well, which is the first command in the Quran, اعْبُدُوا رَبَّكُمْ, And that also comes in the Quran. That also is mentioned in the Quran. اعبدوا ربكم. So our Shaykh is telling us, Shaykh Ṣāliḥ Fawzān, he says, يأمر الله سبحانه بعباده بعبادته وحده لا شريك له. So Allah orders His worshippers, His slaves, to worship Him alone, not putting partners with Him. وَيَنْهَاهُمْ عَنِ الشِّرْكِ, and He prohibits them from shirk. He prohibits from shirk. And this is the same as La ilaha illallah. And it's the same as the previous ayat that we took. وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُ إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ. And again, وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا أَنِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ. It's exactly the similar ayah. أَنِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ, worship Allah, وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ, and keep away from the false gods, false deities. So this is similar. This is similar ayah, similar meaning. This is the key theme through the whole of the Quran. To worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, establish Allah's Tawḥīd, and keep away from associating partners with Allah. And this is the message of all the prophets. Then the Shaykh mentions, وَلَمْ يَخُصْ نَوْءًا مِنْ أَنْوَاءِ الْعِبَادَةِ, that in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not specify a type of worship more than another type of worship. The Shaykh says, لا دعاء ولا صلاة ولا غيرهما, not the dua, nor the prayer, nor anything other than these two. ليعم الأمر جميع أنواع العبادة, so that all aspects of worship are only for Him. To signify that this is general for all types of worship. وَلَمْ يَخُصْ نَوْءًا مِنْ أَنْوَاءِ الشِّرْكِ, and likewise, Allah didn't specify one type of shirk, or a type of shirk. لَيُعَمَّ النَّهْيُ جَمِيعَ الْأَنْوَاءِ الشِّرْكِ, that the negation is general for all types of shirk. For all types of shirk. Now this has been mentioned, this ayah, وَأْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا, the same matter has been emphasized by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, like the Prophet sallallahu did on Hajj, his final farewell Hajj, mentioned the same thing: worship Allah and do not associate partners with Him. And in many other hadith, like for example, there's a hadith in Sahih Muslim narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, where the Prophet sallallahu said, "A'marukum bi arba, I order you with 4, wa anhaakum an arba, and I prohibit you from 4." So Allah, the Prophet Messenger said, ordering us with 4 matters and prohibiting us from 4 matters. I'budullah wa la tushriku bihi shay'an. Worship Allah and do not associate anything with Him. So this is a command which is mentioned in the Quran and emphasized on the tongue of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then the Prophet continued. He said, "I'budullah wa la tushriku bihi shay'an wa aqimus salat." Establish the prayer. Wa atu az-zakat, and give the zakah, pay the zakat. Wa sumu Ramadan, and fast the month of Ramadan. وَآتُوا الْخُمُسَ مِنَ الْغَنَائِمِ, and give 5 portions of the war gains. And then he goes on to prohibit 4 matters which are related to alcoholic drinks and alcoholic vessels that people use for alcohol. So he prohibited those 4 matters. So this theme is mentioned, this aspect, this order, this command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioned. It's mentioned in the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam as well. So this is a very important matter, which and that's why Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab rahimahullah brought it in his first chapter. Then our Shaykh goes on to mention the link with the chapter. The link with the chapter. مناسبة الآية للباب. The link with the chapter, the proof of the chapter, is أنها ابتدأت بأمر بالتوحيد. That Allah, this ayah began with the command of Tawḥīd, ونهى عن الشرك and he prohibited shirk. ففيها تفسير التوحيد. And so here is an explanation of Tawhid. بأنه عبادة الله وحده وترك الشرك. That is the tafsir of Tawhid, that it is the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we know this also because that our whole worship, our whole life is aimed towards that we try to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala correctly by following the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that we try to do it all matters. So we have the great statement, which is something which needs to be memorized, brothers and sisters, which is the definition of al-ibadah. Al-ibadah, we may have covered this one before, but reiterating it now, it's the statement when our Shaykh Ṣāliḥ actually, in his other explanation of Kitāb al-Tawḥīd, his other explanation, which is a much more comprehensive explanation, إعادة المستفيد من شرح كتاب التوحيد, which is detailed. إعادة المستفيد من شرح كتاب التوحيد, the Shaykh goes into explaining, in the same ayah that he's explaining here, he said, وأما العبادة في الشرع, as regards worship which is mentioned in the Sharia, فهي كما عرفها شيخ الإسلام ابن تيمية رحمه الله تعالى. Then it is as Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah defined. He said, اسم جامع, اسم جامع لكل ما يحب الله ويرضاه, اسم جامع لكل ما يحب الله ويرضاه, اسم جامع, clean statement, comprehensive statement, لكل ما يحب الله ويرضاه, everything that which Allah loves and is pleased. This is the definition of ibadah, worship. اسم جامع, اسم جامع لكل ما يحب الله ويرضاه, اسم جامع لكل ما يحب الله ويرضاه, a comprehensive statement, everything which Allah loves and is pleased with, من أعمال والأقوال, من أعمال والأقوال, from actions and statements, deeds and statements. اسم جامع لكل ما يحب الله ويرضاه من أعمال والأقوال, deeds and action and statements. الظاهرة وباطنة, that which الظاهرة وباطنة, that which is apparent and inward, deeds, statements which are apparent and inward. So this is the definition of worship. Everything that Allah loves and is pleased with, from the good deeds that a person does and the statements that a person says, whether they are done openly or done internally. So action of the heart, loving Allah, trusting Allah, having hope in Allah, having fear of Allah, action of the heart. And statements of the heart, that to make dhikr and to remember Allah and these type of things. And on the tongue as well, by saying Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, saying La ilaha illallah, making dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the definition that was given by Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah. Shaykh Taymiyyah mentions that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about La tushriku bi shay'an, this is general for everything, that do not worship a prophet, nor an angel, nor a wali, someone close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In fact, the Shaykh says, in fact, وَلَا أَمْرَ مِنْ أَمُورِ الدُّنْيَا, not a single matter from the matters of the dunya. And you don't put that as partners with Allah. Like some people worship money, they worship wealth, they will do anything and everything to get that wealth. Halal, haram, they don't care. So the Shaykh says, فَلَا تَجْعَلَ الدُّنْيَا شَرِيكًا مَعَ اللَّهِ. Shaykh Taymiyyah rahimahullah said, do not associate the worldly matter, the world, شريكا مع الله سبحانه وتعالى. Then he said, والإنسان إذا كان همه الدنيا كان عابدا لها. That's the point. That when a person, it becomes that the most important matter is the worldly life, he becomes a slave or a worshipper of that. Slave or worshipper of that. That the most important thing for him is the dunya. He doesn't care. He doesn't give precedence. He's just concerned with the dunya. Then he becomes a worshipper. And then the Shaykh said, كما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم, like the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, دائس عبد الدينار, دائس عبد الدرهم, دائس عبد الخميلة, دائس عبد الخميسة. This is a hadith which is mentioned in Bukhari. And this hadith occurs in Kitāb at-Tawḥīd in a very later chapter. And the Prophet ﷺ said, wretched is the one who worships dinar, the slave of the dinar. And he is a currency. He said, wretched is the slave of the dirham. Yeah? Wretched is the slave of the dirham. And then he went on to mention Ta'isa Abdul Khabila, a type of clothing, a type of fabric. He worships that fabric, and that's all the concern that he has. He has the concern with the dunya, and that's it. So he becomes a worshipper of that. And that's why the Shaykh says, do not, la tushriku bi shay'in, not an angel or a prophet or anything like that, not even somebody who worships the matter of the dunya. Then the Shaykh goes on. Shaykh al-Fawzān, he goes, مَا يُسْتَفَادَ مِنَ الْآيَةِ. What is benefited from the ayah? And this is the process that the Shaykh uses. First explaining the vocabulary, then the meaning, general meaning, the link between the chapter and the evidence, and then how to benefit, what is benefited from this ayah. So the first one the Shaykh mentions is number one. He said, وجوب إفراد الله بالعبادة, the obligation of singling out Allah alone with worship. The obligation of singling out Allah alone with worship. And that's why ikhlas, sincerity, plays a very, very important role in that, in worship. Ikhlas is a central factor for a central matter, a central principle, which everything else revolves around, of singling out Allah alone with worship. The Shaykh says, لأن الله أمر بذلك أولا هو آكد الواجبات. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered this matter firstly, وَعْبُدُ اللَّهِ, worship Allah, and then and it is the most emphasized of obligations. Most emphasized of obligations. Number two, تحريم الشرك, the prohibition of shirk. لأن الله نهى عنه, because Allah prohibited this. فهو أشد المحرمات, and it is the most severest and worst of the haram matters. Number three, أن اجتناب الشرك شرط في صحة العبادة. This is something we have to really understand. The people, and we need to really understand this point so we can understand the difference between when people claim or people think that they're doing righteous deeds, whereas in reality, they do righteous deeds and commit shirk, that there is no use whatsoever for them to do those good deeds. No benefit whatsoever. And اجتناب الشرك, keeping away from shirk, is a condition, shart, في صحة العبادة. For a worship to be accepted, you have to keep away from shirk. So if a person does tahajjud, night prayer, he fasts all of the Ramadan, he goes out for Hajj, but in reality, he commits shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then all his worship is not accepted. Here, notice that the Shaykh says, في صحة العبادة, in the
worship being accepted. Not that it being correct. The person can be correct or incorrect in his worship, makes a mistake, or makes a bid'ah or anything like that, and it might still be accepted. But here is the acceptance of that he has to keep away from shirk in all its forms. لأن Allah, the Shaykh said, لأن الله قرن الأمر بالعبادة بالنهي عن الشرك. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made that comparison, linked up this matter of worshipping Allah and the prohibition of shirk. And connected them together. وَأَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا. Number 4, the Shaykh mentions أَنَّ الشِّرْكَ حَرَامٌ. That shirk is haram. It's prohibited. قَلِيلَهُ وَكَثِيرَهُ. Whether it's just a small amount or large amount. كَبِيرُهُ وَصَغِيرُهُ. The major shirk and the lesser shirk. And that we'll deal with in detail when we come to the whole chapter of shirk and being fearful of shirk. لأن الكلمة الشيء نكرة في سياق النفي يتعم كل ذلك. And that is because this word shay is indefinite in the textual, in the form of the sentence. It's in a negative form, sorry. It's an indefinite noun which is in a negative statement, so it's general. And number 5, the last one, the Shaykh mentions أنه لا يجوز أن يشرك مع الله أحد في عبادته. That it's not permissible to associate partners with Allah in his worship. Now, you might notice that the Shaykh keeps going on about using the same phrase. This is because of the Arabic language has a lot of emphasis. Arabic language has a lot of forms of emphasis. And when the Arabs speak, they implement that a lot in their speech as well, emphasizing certain points. Whereas in other languages, maybe it's not as well emphasized. So the Shaykh says, أنه لا يجوز, not allowed, أن يشرك مع الله أحد في عبادته, to associate anyone with Allah in his worship. لا ملك, not an angel, ولا نبي, not a prophet, ولا صالح من أولياء, nor a righteous man from the awliya, ولا صنم, nor an idol. لأن كلمة شيء that the word shay is that it is general, that it is a general prohibition. لا تشركوا به شيء. And that's why we have to be careful of shirk. With that, we've come to the end of today's lesson. Looking at this evidence of worship Allah and do not associate anything with Him. جزاكم الله خير for listening. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك وصلى الله على نبينا محمد.